All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of The Sportsman. As always, Joey D and myself, the big ticket. No Mikey today. The guy's living it up in Disney World with his family, and you know,
God love him, man. He's putting in the work right now. A week in Disney World, let me tell you, that's got to be with the kids and stuff. He's doing like 15 to 20,000 steps a day. It's got to be exhausting. The poor guy's going to come back just disheveled.
that being said, he spent a nice night. What is this Canadian thing that he did while
I
he
think it
was
was at
there?
Epcot. Like it's like
Okay.
they have different countries with their like you could go into their houses and they have different like restaurants and different stuff that's like representative of the country. I don't know. I've never been to Disney World. Like I told you, I've been deprived my life. But apparently that's what it is. And so he did, his mom wanted to go to the Canadian one out of all the
Mm.
nationalities that he could have chosen. So they were there last night.
You've never been to Disney World ever? Wow.
No, dog. I'm thinking about maybe like going like later this year, just going with Nicole for a couple days. I
Yeah.
never went, man. I never even went to Disneyland as a kid.
See, now that's a real problem because you don't live that far from it. That's like a 2 hour plane ride.
Dude, I was so busy with hockey and sports and everything else. Like we never did it, man. We never did it. So when I moved to California to LA, after about a year or so, I went to Disneyland. I checked that box. And now I moved to Florida. And I think maybe in the next 6 months or
There you
so, I
go.
can check off the Disney World box.
Disney World is it's night and day. It's way
Is it
better
that
than
much
Disneyland.
bigger?
Yeah, and it's just better. Like Disneyland feels very old because it is. Disney World is a much more it's much newer and like bigger in scope and a lot more to do. And I mean,
Well, the
I'm not a
Star
big
Wars world in Disneyland is brand new, and that is sick.
yeah, it does look cool. I'm not a big Disney guy in general. I don't think I'll
No.
ever go back. I guess unless maybe I have kids, but even still, I'll try to get out of that. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's worth going to if you've never been, but I
Isn't it?
don't
I
know.
think when Disney World is so big, you kind of almost have to go for 2 days,
If
or like
well, at
minimum.
least it's not a day trip. Yeah.
Yeah, you might have to go for like a weekend or something.
They have resorts there though that you can go and
I just feel like after 2 days, I would be done.
yeah.
I would be done. It's like waking up in an episode of that Groundhog movie. It's just the same thing, just repeating. It's just I don't know.
Well, they have like five different parks. So that's why some people spend like a week there. They've got Animal Kingdom, they've got Epcot, they've got three other ones that I can't remember.
Dude, they
But
gotta
yeah,
they gotta
it's
price gouge the shit out of you over there, man.
oh, that's I mean, even when I went in high school, which was a senior trip for high school, it was like thousands of dollars. I can't even imagine how expensive it is now for like Mikey. I
With a
would
family,
oh, with the family, the
and
kids
he's staying in
drag
the
you in
Disney
there.
hotel.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh boy.
Oh, when Mickey Mouse is checking you in, you know that that's not coming with a small price tag.
Well, the fun thing about going when I was a kid is like that you could get this autograph book and you try to get all the Disney characters to sign it, which is kind of crazy in retrospect because it's just some guy getting paid minimum wage
Like you or me walking around signing
just
autographs
signing
when we have no
autographs,
business.
sweating your ass off in a big
Oh,
old Mickey Mouse costume. But anyway, that's where Mikey is. Meanwhile, me and you, we just filmed, dude. I got home probably 15 minutes ago. I haven't even showered. I got a
I haven't
nice
either.
glisten to me. Yeah.
I'm
So
starving too.
I'm starving. But let's just dive into college football. This will mainly be an NFL episode, but we're going to dive into some of the bigger topics from college football this week, starting with the Georgia Alabama game.
Yeah, what a game
That
that was,
was
man.
incredible. Alabama pulled it out 41 to 34. But Georgia came on strong there at the end. What'd you think, Joe?
I mean, I think a couple of things. I think Jaden Milroe's in a class of his own. I think this guy is just unbelievable. There's some of the times he's just faster and quicker and shiftier than pretty much everyone out there. So that was what caught my eye. But you know what? Georgia, a lot of resilience. Kirby Smart, he said after the interview at halftime, he said, we just got to get out of our own way and keep their offense off the field. And they did exactly that, man. And I couldn't believe. I actually went to bed. I watched the highlights the next day because I thought the game was going to be over, and I went back and watched it. Bro, they made a push. The fact that they took the lead towards the end of the game there, only for this stud, this Williams, to come back with one of the coolest highlight reel touchdowns. You see that the
Yeah.
juke and jive down the sideline. This kid's a freshman, dude. This kid's unbelievable. So yeah, just a great game. Carson Beck struggled immensely the first half. Multiple turnovers. They looked like they were just in a world of trouble. And you know what? Well-coached team. They came, they brought it back, and they made some amazing plays to get back in the game. And it turned out to be a barn burner. Absolutely unbelievable game. Alabama wins. They now move to first overall in the country, I believe. And, Georgia, I think they're still going to be fine. I mean, with the extended playoff, system they have now, I think Georgia is going to be one of those top tier teams. And, we'll see what happens if they meet in the future. It's going to be very exciting.
Yeah, it was a great bounce back week after. I mean, they got the win against Kentucky from last week, but it was a nice bounce back week for them to go into Tuscaloosa and play such a great game against Alabama. I mean, that's one of the toughest environments to play in, and for them to play as well as they did, especially at the end there, I thought they've got a lot to build upon, and I do think they're a top four team in the country, regardless of
I
coming up
agree.
short against Alabama here. All right, moving on to one other thing I really wanted to talk to you about. Texas, Arch Manning. Do you think he deserves to continue to be the starter there, or do you think he's eventually going to have to give way?
I think, they played Mississippi State this week, a tougher team than they played last week, but still not a real threat. I think he's playing well. He's doing what he needs to do. But we mentioned before, I think Mikey said before too, I think Quinn Ewers is their guy. I think Arch Manning is like the long-term play for this team. Very good to see him getting reps early on. If, later on in the season, Ewers is still banged up and goes down again, it's going to be good for his confidence. But he looks like a very confident, unbelievable prospect that's going to, materialize into a top tier quarterback that will be drafted very, very high into the NFL. So I think they're great for having him on and being able to get him to play, but I don't think he's going to challenge for the starting job yet. That being said, Texas is going to be in a good spot because they'll have a very, very capable backup if and when, Ewers comes back, if he ever gets hurt again. They can have confidence knowing that this young man is ready to take on a bigger role.
Yeah, Texas has a very promising future and a promising present. I mean, they're number one in the country, but it's just not Arch Manning's time, I don't think yet. Quinn Ewers has just done too much to keep that job. So whenever he's ready, I don't know when that is. I don't know how much longer he's got, but I think he's just done too much. You got to give it back to him. He's just been so
Mhm.
good for them. He hasn't done anything wrong, and but that being said, Arch is a very promising future for the Longhorns. All right, there's a lot more of college to get into, but without Mikey, and he's really our expert here with college, and Joe as well. But we'll do a bigger dive into college next week. But I wanted to get into a few more things before we jump right into NFL. First being Karl Anthony Towns traded to the Knicks.
Yeah, that was
What do you think about
crazy.
that?
Julius Randle, DiVincenzo, and I think a second round pick, if
Hmm.
I'm correct. And that second round pick could end up being a high pick, I believe, because it's one that they were traded for. I don't know, Karl Anthony Towns to me, and you watch basketball a lot too, so you might be able to weigh in here. He's a guy when he's on, he looks like a top tier. I think he's a power. Is he a power forward or is he a center?
I think he goes back and forth. I
I
think
think
he's
he could go
technically a power
either.
forward. Yeah.
But I think like one of the better big men in the league, the fact that he can shoot the three, he can get in the low post, but the thing is he looks like he lacks focus at times. He looks like sometimes he plays when he wants to play, and there's other times where he just doesn't have it. And I don't know if that's going to be a move that's going to push the Knicks over the top. I just don't know if that's Julius Randle. The problem with him is he's never healthy. But
Yeah.
now that the Knicks have some good pieces, he doesn't need to be their number one guy. So, like, I think as a supporting role, Randall's a really good player as long as he stays healthy. And DiVincenzo had an awesome year last year. He was a great role player, a guy who can shoot from the perimeter. So he's a guy who, brings a lot to the court. And then you trade a potential, number two pick, which could be high. I think the Knicks might have given up a little bit more than they needed to here. I don't know. What do you think, Pop?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Knicks are just in like we got to figure something out right now mode, and I think getting rid of a guy
Yeah.
like Julius Randle, who has been sort of the cornerstone of their team for a while now, and they make pushes and they make runs, but they just didn't have the firepower to get to that next level and actually compete for a championship. So I think it was about time that they made a move like this. Now, is Karl Anthony Towns the guy that's going to get them that firepower and get them to the championship level? I don't know because I mean the guy's been in the league for quite some time now. I think his stats are going down a little bit. I think he used to be more of a 25 point,
Yeah.
per game guy and like 11 to 12 rebounds. And now he's more of like a 21 to 20 kind of guy and 8 rebounds a game. It's just still very good. But I think that on top of the idea that, like you said, he does seem to lack focus and he does seem to disappear for stretches of the season, and he's definitely capable of getting injured. I don't know if he's the guy, but maybe he's the one of the pieces that start to
Well,
get that ball rolling.
the Knicks getting McCall Bridges is a big move too, because now
Sure.
that's another guy who can play good defense and can score points. So Jalen Brunson now does not need to do the superhuman things he was doing last year in the playoffs. He can
Yeah.
facilitate and be more of a point guard. So you know what? Maybe Towns is going to be good because you got to remember too. He was asked to do less last year with obviously Anthony Edwards taking a big step as like the number one guy there. Naz Reid it was a really good player as their center. So you know what? I don't know. I guess it's time will tell, but the Knicks are definitely, if they can stay healthy, a team to reckon with now. They have some firepower. So it'll be interesting to see what they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I definitely think this makes them a better team. I think they got a better shot. I like their odds more, especially with the Sixers just making no moves to get a little bit further in the
Well, you guys got
playoffs.
Paul George.
Yeah, which that doesn't exactly spark that doesn't make me excited.
No,
But because my take on that guy. But
I know.
and Joel Embiid, man, as much as I love him, he's just proven at this point that he needs some help at the very least. And I just don't know if it's ever going to work with him in Philadelphia as far as winning a championship. I just don't know. I'd like to be wrong on that, but that's
Yeah.
just to this point. I don't know how you make an argument for the other side, unless just surround him with LeBron and all these other Giannis and all these other superstars. But
Well, Maxi's going to be great again this
Maxi's great.
year. He's
Maxi's awesome.
unbelievable. The thing is, you guys ran into the Knicks last year, and you might very well run into him again this year. So it'll be interesting to see. I think you guys are the better team than the Knicks. I think last year you
Wow,
guys should
wow.
have won that series last. Well, with last year, all the injuries they had,
Of course, we
I
should have.
mean, Embiid, there's games he looks unbelievable, and then there's games that looks like he's gonna snap his
I
ankle
know.
running down the court.
He just doesn't look like he was built correctly, the way he
No,
moves. And yet he's one of the best players in the league. I'm not
yeah,
going to deny that, but just
oh, he is.
sometimes these guys can't make it work in certain markets for one reason or another, whether it's coaching or not enough support. And I just question whether Embiid's in that situation in Philadelphia. But time will tell. And I
Yeah,
wouldn't be shocked if the Knicks face the Sixers in the playoffs again and
that's what I'm saying.
found a
Yeah,
way to win again. But time will tell. One last thing I want to get to before we move into football is the baseball playoffs. Okay. You've been watching, you've been betting. I know there's a few teams out there you like. You like the Mets. I think you like the Orioles a little bit, but who do you like to get out of this wild card round and move forward?
well, I think the Mets right now are a hot team. I think in baseball, when you get hot at the right time, it means all the difference.
Sure.
Because you're playing so many games, right? But if you get hot right before postseason, especially with the bats, right? I mean, we've seen teams like the Yankees in the past. Bob cheers for them. Mikey cheers for them. They're good in the season. Then the bats go cold come playoff time. And it's just really tough because you're facing the best pitching. You're facing the team's aces every game. And it's tough to win in the playoffs. So far, I think the Mets are look good. I think that they'll come out of this series. Obviously, they're up 1-0 as we're filming today. Against the Brewers. I really like. I mean, the Padres to me. I don't know. I have not been on the Padres for a while. I watched this Adams pitch this guy yesterday. Holy shit, dude. He was throwing heat. They got great at bats. I think they're a team that could go far. Your Phillies, though, Pop. Phillies are waiting. They look good. The Yankees are waiting. Who do you like? You got to feel confident with your Phillies.
I do, but just like what you said about Bob and Mikey with the Yankees and what happened last year, I think what was it against Arizona
Yeah,
in the championships? We just our bats went completely cold, and I mean they went cold pretty much throughout the whole playoffs. And Bryce Harper was carrying
he
us,
was
and then
nuts. Yeah,
finally he went cold, and no one could pick him up. And then so the Phillies are very capable of that. I'm not sure anyone's gonna. I mean the Dodgers just look so fucking good.
oh man.
So I think if they run into them, which they got lucky enough last year, I believe, to not have
Yeah.
to, but lucky enough, I mean, they still didn't go to the series. But I just worried for the same reason that Mikey and Bob do about the Yankees that could very easily be what happens for them. But pitching's a little better, team's a little better. I like them a lot, but I really like the Dodgers. But coming out of the wild card series, I like the Mets, I like the Padres. But you got to watch out for those Braves, man. They can make some moves happen, and the Padres like to shoot themselves in the foot at times. So it'll be interesting to watch. I do
Yeah.
like them pesky Tigers though too.
No, Joe, did they win today?
I don't know if
They
they won
were
today, but they won
they
yesterday,
won
right?
yesterday. I think it was 0-0 in the game today. Let me see here.
I think they
Uh
might be playing currently.
they're
Oh, they're
playing as we speak. They're up 1-0, end of the
yeah,
sixth.
yeah, they
Look at
sure
that,
are,
Pop.
man. They sure are.
Those pesky Tigers.
Detroit Tigers.
I'm sure
All
no
right.
one would like to see the Astros out quite as much as Bob. He hates them so much.
I think a lot of America, I mean, obviously there's a different relationship there, but I think a lot of people are just sick of the Astros too.
It was nice seeing
It's
the
just
Rangers take care of them last year.
sure was. But now, yeah, it was. So I'd like to see the Tigers do the same this year.
Sure
But
would.
anyway, let's move on to week 4. What happened last week in the NFL? Let's just kick it off with the Thursday night game. Cowboys went to New York, played the Giants, and came out of there with a 20-15 victory. What did you like about that game? Or what did you see in that game, rather?
I saw CeeDee Lamb look tremendously, good as one of the top receivers in the league. He could do whatever he wanted. I think the Cowboys, they played a solid game from start to finish. They really did. They deserved to win that game. They should have covered the spread for the full game. I find it crazy to believe that Aubrey, who hasn't missed a 50-yarder all year, conveniently misses one that determines the
Banged us.
overall spread of the game. Yeah, in the second half, which is shocking, but kind of on par for the course for what's happening in the NFL this year. But no, I think the Cowboys, listen, that was a big bounce back game for them. They handled their business. Their defense looks very, very shaky. I wouldn't consider the Giants, an offensive juggernaut by any means. And it felt like Malik Neighbors on the other side of CeeDee Lamb he was just cruising early and often. So, I'm not sold on the Cowboys still. I don't think that they've turned it around. But the Eagles lost this week in a big game, which doesn't help, obviously, not to bring that up. But now they're right back in the mix of things in that division. And right now, the Commanders look like the best team with Jaden Daniels in that division, which is crazy. I don't know how long that'll last. He's a rookie. That could fall apart. But it's interesting. I think it's going to be a long season. And if the Cowboys can get Dak and CD firing on all cylinders, it's gonna open up a lot of things for them and make their lives a lot easier, so they don't have to fucking rely on that shitty defense.
Yeah, I agree with you on most fronts there. I tell you what, on the other side of the ball, this Malik Neighbors looks like he's the only guy on that team that wants to win.
I know.
They're putting a lot on this young man. I think he had like 12 catches for like
He had a
120, 30
lot.
yards. It was unbelievable. And he's a special guy. He's a special player. But yeah, I mean, CD, what a game for him. And this Daniel Jones thing is so mind-blowing because I've never seen a guy get so many chances to continue being a starter in the league while also looking so uh,
Mediocre.
mediocre that they keep throwing him out there. Who else in the league have you ever seen get this many chances to go out there and still hack it as a starter? It's unbelievable
Dak
that the Giants
Prescott.
won't move. Yeah, but at least Dak looks good. Sometimes he puts
Yeah.
up good numbers. He's got to the playoffs. Daniel Jones is so miserable, and I'm sure he's not surrounded with the best staff, and I'm sure he's not always put in the best environment. But he, we've seen enough, man, from this guy that he's maybe a decent backup, but he ain't no starter.
No, he's not.
So what
He
are they
lacks the
doing?
sauce. He lacks the sauce, dude.
But it makes me feel crazy that the Giants keep putting him out there. Like, what are they
Well,
fucking
not only
doing?
that, they chose him over Saquon Barkley. We see how,
Yeah,
I mean, good
true.
for you and for your Eagles because, that's going to end up biting them in the eye. The fact that they let him go to a division rival is just, it's mind numbing. Like, if I were them, I would have at least traded him outside of the division or outside of the conference.
Well, did they
Doing
trade him or did they? I
No,
think they
they
didn't
let him
sign him.
go. They let
So
him
he could go
go.
wherever he wanted to go. It wasn't.
And
Yeah,
he banged. He's gonna bang him
yeah, he sure
multiple
is.
times.
Yeah, he might. He might, as long as Jalen Hurts can stay out of the way. All right, let's move on over to Sunday. Let's get to that Rams Bears game. How about them Bears, man? Taking a win in Chicago, 24-18. What'd you see there? What'd you see out of young Caleb Williams?
Caleb Williams looked solid. He didn't make any big mistakes. He kind of stayed out of his own way. The clinching touchdown to win the game was the DeAndre Swift, like 35-yard touchdown scamper, which, Bear Down was saying, this, and to his credit, like he looked like he had nothing in the tank prior to this game. But you had actually said that they got to get him in the game more. They got to hand him the ball off more. They got to try to open up that passing game by running the ball. Rashawn Johnson had a touchdown. So yeah, the Bears did what the Bears had to do. I think the Rams, I mean, I know they beat the Niners at home last week, but the Niners are kind of a depleted team right now. They don't have McCaffrey. They didn't have Debo. They didn't have Kittle that game, so I think the Rams are like a cusp wild card team, maybe sneak into the playoffs this year. I don't think they're going to like dominate anybody. So the Bears took care of business, and that's what they got to do. They're now 2-2. And I think now they're only behind I think the Lions and the Vikings. I think they're tied with the Packers now, but they're right in the mix in that NFC North. So good for them. And these are the games that, quite frankly, Caleb Williams needs to continue to grow and continue to learn and develop. And I think I talk shit about him sometimes, but I thought he played a good game.
Yeah, I mean, it's very clear, at least at the level where Caleb Williams is right now, which is a rookie who's only played his fourth game now, that rushing attack, if they can do, they don't even need to be crazy special, but if they can just give him close to 100 yards, 120, 130 yards, and let him throw no more than 20 to 25 times and limit getting him closer to 35, 40 times,
Yeah.
I think that's the recipe of success for the Bears.
I mean, he threw for a 157, one passing touchdown, but no interceptions. There it is. DeAndre Swift, 16 carries, 93 yards,
Yeah.
plus the touchdown. And then they gave 7 carries to Rashawn Johnson. Caleb Williams ran it for 5 times. So they had a good mix of rushing, which again, like you're saying, that's gonna allow him, especially with kind of a shoddy offensive line, it's gonna allow him, when he does drop back to pass, a little bit more time, or it opens up the play action pass as well.
Yeah, and it was nice to see Swift shut up some of the haters because he also caught 7 balls for, I don't know, 70 yards or something like that. So
DJ Moore had a touchdown, your boy.
yeah,
Nice toe tap touchdown there.
he's a toe tapper. He's dancing around the field. All right, let's move on to that Eagles Bucs game.
Oh,
What
geez.
a fucking disaster from this team. They lost in Tampa Bay 33-16. Joe, I mean, what's going on with this guy? This team.
I to be honest, I really didn't watch much of the game. I just kept seeing every time I had the red zone highlights. It was like Baker Mayfield rushes for a touchdown. Baker Mayfield throws for a touchdown. Baker Mayfield throws for a touchdown. Turnover, Jalen Hurts. I was like, what is going on? We actually talked about this game before it started. And I said, I like the Bucs. And you said, this is a great spot for them to come out and win. And they did that. And man, the Eagles, they've got to figure some shit out, man, on defense. Like I know you want to talk about Jalen Hurts and all the problems. This defense was supposed to be somewhat formidable, and they're letting these teams just march down the field. Baker looked unbelievable.
Yeah, I
He
mean
looked
they
unbelievable.
played a great game against the Saints last week, but
I know, but you can't Jekyll and Mr. Hyde.
oh, I
Like
agree. I
it's
agree.
one game they look like okay, this is the team that we expect them to be, and then the next week it's like I don't know if the Eagles have played a full game yet this season where the defense and the offense were firing on full cylinders. I don't know if they
Oh,
have.
they haven't even come close, Joe.
No.
No, not there. We haven't seen one game out of a great offensive performance. Not, I mean, probably the first week against the Packers was their best one, and that wasn't even them. They still didn't look completely right in that
No.
situation either. So we certainly haven't seen anything from the offense yet. And then the defense at least did have that one week against the Saints, but the jury's still out on if that Saints defense or offense is even worth anything. So, I mean, but yeah, you just can't Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. I mean, the offense is only Mr. Hiding. That's all
Yeah.
they're doing.
Well, they had a good game the first week against the Packers. They put up like 30 points, 30 something points.
But it just something about it never looked smooth. It just, I don't know. But yeah, I mean, Saquon had another decent game. I mean, I still think this guy needs to get the ball more. I think we need to be getting him at least 15 touches a game. He just has to, especially when Smith and Brown are out. It's like he has to be involved more. He's the best. He's one of the best players in the league. And with Christian McCaffrey out, he's absolutely the best running back in the
I
game
think
right now.
so.
He
Well,
needs more than 10
Henry's
touches.
up there.
Sure, sure. But I mean,
But
Saquon's not even getting his touches.
I would give Saquon the nod just because he's a better pass catcher. He can run a wheel route like he did week one against the Packers and catch like a 25, 30-yard touchdown pass, in the end
Yeah.
zone. Whereas you're not going to see that out of Henry. But yeah, I agree. I think he brings so much dynamic playmaking ability that they have to utilize him. It's the other thing though, is you don't want him to get too banged up. Like if he's just getting, bulldozing carries after, game after game, you don't want him to be beaten to a pulp by the time playoffs run around.
Oh, at this point, we might not even make him. I mean, we're getting to a bad place with this, but I don't know what Kellen Moore is thinking, not only giving him the ball 10 times last week. That was just ridiculous to me. But the only thing I will accept is that, yeah, maybe they don't want him to get too banged up, but at some point, what matters more? Like not banging this
I
guy up and losing
You got to
or
win
banging him
games.
up and trying to win fucking football games. But I mean, maybe once the game got out of hand too, they were like, let's pull back on them because this is just what's the point?
Well, yeah, I
But
think part of that was the game script, right? They got behind so early. They were down
right.
like 17 points. And then
Yeah.
they looked like they were making a little bit of a surge in the second half, and they had that bad turnover, and that kind of just derailed them from that point on. But I think when you go down early on, and you kind of have to abandon the running game pretty much because you're having to throw the ball downfield to get these big chunk plays. So I think that was kind of game script as well. But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. The Eagles got to really figure it out because they're, to me, one of the better teams in the NFC, and they're not playing like it right now. And you got a lot of other teams, including the Commanders in your own division, who are playing above the expectations of what they should be playing. So, you don't want to get too far behind the eight ball, Tick.
I know, and that's what we're working towards right now. I mean, the biggest narrative, I think, in my opinion, of the Eagles so far this season is what you just said: bad turnovers. Every single game, we've had some bad turnovers, and two of them they cost us the game, and two of them we overcame it. But it never looks pretty. It sure does.
No.
There's not a lot to be excited about there. All right, moving on here. Let's go to the Saints Falcons. We were in Atlanta, and Atlanta pulled it out 26-24. Your boy Derek Carr had a decent game. I mean, he got him in position, but I think that probably had more to do with Kamara than anything. But what'd you see there?
It's amazing, these field goal kickers, man, the field goals that they make now.
Yeah.
There was a time I remember not long ago when I was like, oh my God, this guy's trying for a 55-yarder, like, holy shit. And now it's like, Younghoe Koo, 58-yard field goal with ease to win the game. Like, these guys are just unbelievable. But that was a crazy finish. I was disappointed with Atlanta's defense that they let the Saints march all the way down the field, and there were a couple penalties in there, but it would have been nice to see them, especially as someone who had them at -2 for the game. Now it ended up pushing, but it was just like, it's never ever watching the NFL this year as a fan. You never expect that a team on defense, when they have to make a stop, that they're going to make a stop. It
I
just
know.
rarely happens. It's like whoever has the ball last is going to win the game. It's crazy. And it's like 58-yard field goals and stupid 70-yard drives and touchdowns when it's just like, can we get a 3-4 and out or a turnover and just seal the game? So, I mean, Kamara, did his thing. He got a touchdown late in the game. Carr looked at that Raheed Shaheed, I think 11 targets. He made like 7 or 8 receptions, so he was his favorite player of the game. Cousins distributed the ball. I tell you what, man, this Kyle Pitts, this guy has got to figure it out, dude. The guy's got all the talent in the
I
world.
know.
I also have him on my fantasy team, and I'm watching him, and it's like there's games where it looks like he can dominate, and there's games it's like, yo, is he even on the field right now? It's unbelievable. He's a big weapon that just seems to not get used. I was also very impressed by this Algier, the backup running back for the Falcons. This guy runs hard. And when you got a guy like Bijan Robinson, who can do everything, you can give him some reps off and get him some breathers. And Algier comes in and just starts pounding the rock. Like he runs hard and fast. Atlanta's a tricky team. I don't think they've found their stride just yet, but I think they're kind of trending upwards. And I think they're a team to watch out for later on in the season. I think they can do some damage and they can upset some teams.
Yeah, I think the NFL right now, there's just not very many great teams. It's a
No.
lot of okay teams. That's why a lot of teams are 2-2 right now. And then some bad teams too. So I think this is just a classic game against two very middle of the road teams who wanted it more or possibly who wanted it less. But Derek Carr, Kirk Cousins, you kind of got what you thought you were going to get out of that game, and you were almost more excited. I was more excited to watch guys like Alvin Kamara and Bijan Robinson, and then even to get surprised like a guy like Spears. So that's kind of what I ever get excited about with the Saints and Falcons. And then when they play each other, it's just like it's how to even watch. I'll catch it on Red Zone, but yeah, Falcons pulled it out. They needed to. They needed a win there, and they got it. Saints moving in the wrong direction. So we'll see if Derek Carr can.
The Falcons could easily be 3-1, Pop. They could easily be 3-1. That one game against the Chiefs where they literally, I mean, it looked like they were going to win that game.
They could easily be back to 2-2 though if the Eagles didn't get gashed in 30 seconds to let Kirk Cousins march down the field.
Well, they are 2-2.
And then I know, but I'm saying if you're saying they could be 3-1, they could go back
I mean, that was an anomaly.
Jalen Hurts with a lot of time left just throws a stupid interception. So I mean,
that was one of those times we were talking about we don't see very often. It happened in the Eagles game.
Sure
one
did.
time the offense doesn't march all the way down the field is the time yours or my team needs it.
That's true.
Pretty fitting.
Yeah. Well, speaking of the Packers, let's go to the Vikings-Packers game. I mean, you guys just ran into a buzzsaw. I mean, who's better than the Vikings now? I mean, they did most of their damage in that first half, but you guys ended up losing in Lambeau 31-29 to the Vikings. I mean, what do you have to say for yourself there?
It was just a horrific first half, man. Like everything that could go wrong went wrong. It was early and often. By the way, Sam Darnold looks reborn in Minnesota.
I know. It's crazy.
Getting Jordan Addison back, dude, now, like you don't have to just worry about fucking Justin Jefferson. You don't have to worry about just Aaron Jones. Now you got Jordan Addison. And by the way, they have Hawkinson, who's going to come back probably in the next few weeks. And that guy's one of the better tight ends in terms of moving the chains and middle up the field catches. They are a dynamic offense. As long as Darnold doesn't turn the ball over, like they are a very, very scary team. And their defense is formidable. Like their defense, they bring the blitz, they hit you in the mouth, they look for turnovers. So the Packers, I mean, here's what happened. Similarly to the Eagles, they just dug themselves in such a deep hole early on that it's so hard to get back from that. 2 turnovers, 2 interceptions from Love. One of them was like a bizarre, it was like he was throwing I think he was throwing a Jaden Reed or Dontavius Wicks. It went over their head, went into Dobbs' hands, bounced off his hands. The Vikings got the turnover, the interception, and ran it back into like our 10-yard line. So 2 bad turnovers. And then I tell you what, this Narvison or whatever the fuck his name is, our field goal kicker, this guy has got to go, dude. He missed a 37-yarder and a 48 or 49-yarder. Everything I said about field goal kickers who can't miss, this guy's the opposite. He can't make one. He misses one every game. And you know what? It's just demoralizing. We were in that game early on, 2 missed field goals, 2 turnovers. All of a sudden you're down 28, 20, 21, 28 points. And the Packers fought back resiliently in the second half. They played really, really hard football, which to me as a fan is at least really encouraging because they could have thrown in the towel and quit. And they battled up until the very, very end. But it just goes to show, like, if they had played better football in the first half, this could have been a really, really good football team. But kudos to the Vikings. They're a top-tier team, and they're playing like it right now. And I think, like I said, they're only going to keep getting better as they keep getting guys healthy coming back to the lineup.
Yeah, I mean, I think you pretty much said everything there. The one thing I will say is when it comes to the Packers, I think you got a very special guy with Jaden Reed, man. I think
Oh,
the
yeah.
world of this guy. This guy's been incredible for you. I think he's just been great. Wicks, I think
Wicks
he
was
he started
great.
slow, but then, in the beginning of the season, and now he's really coming on, showing what he can do. So yeah, I think if the Packers can just play 4 quarters of football instead of 2, or even it kind of felt like most of the points came in the fourth quarter. So they can play all 4 instead of 1 or 2. I think you're one of the better teams in that
Yeah.
division there. And then going back going to the Vikings, I think a lot of people in Minnesota are waiting for like the other shoe to drop with the Sam Darnold thing. Like, are we just getting a special month here, or is this guy going to put a full season together? It's starting to look like he's going to put a full season
I
together.
got him on my fantasy team. I picked
He
him up.
looks great. Oh, you did? I didn't know you did that.
Yeah, friend of the program. I was like, listen, I had cousins, and I was like, I can't with this guy anymore. And Darnold's sitting there, and I'm like, you know what? He's got one of the best receivers in the league. He looks like he's comfortable. He's not making a lot of mistakes, and he's been terrific. He's been
Yes.
really, really good.
Yeah, he
I'd
has.
love to see it. I mean, it's
But
bounce
you have
back player.
Richardson too, don't you? Isn't he
Yeah,
your other
he's
one?
another story there, man. Oh my God, I don't know what I'm gonna do with him. But the last thing I'll say about this game, Tick, is Jordan Love, I do not think was ready to play. And I know he padded his stats late and he ended up putting together a good game, but he just did not look 100%. The knee still looks not great. He's not finishing his throws. He looked uncomfortable scrambling in the pocket. And it didn't help that we couldn't run the ball, so we had to rely on him throwing the ball, and they were bringing blitzes, and every time they brought it, it was just a
Yeah.
real issue. And I hope that they don't try to rush him back if he needs more time to heal. I don't want them to force the issue because he looked like he was not operating even close to 100%.
Well, but I mean, he did come, around there at the end, and I think moving. I mean, he's just going to have another week of rest. So you got to imagine he's just going to keep getting better.
Hopefully,
It was
I hope
promising
so.
to see that at the end of the game from him. It was like he was
Yeah.
getting his
Oh, for
footing
sure.
back and trusting his body. But anyway, I think that was a battle between the two best teams in the North as far as talent goes, and where you guys are going to end up at the end of the
More than
season.
the Lions.
I mean, the Lions are good. They look like they were having a lot of fun out there this week, but I think the Packers are set up for a great 10-year run, 5 to 6 to 7 to 8 to 9, 10-year run. I mean, I think you guys got a lot of young talent and you're moving in the right direction. So maybe this isn't the year. Maybe it's the Lions and the Vikings, but you guys are right. You're right there. That's a tough division, man.
Yeah.
Let's move over to the Broncos and the Jets. Bit of a sloppy game, man. Bit of a tough game to watch. And it's like, speaking of Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde, which Jet team are you going to get? The Broncos headed to New York. They played the Jets, and the Broncos pulled it out 10-9.
Ugly game.
Yeah,
Ugly game.
it was horrible. It was horrible to watch.
How about that Bo Nix, Pop?
I know he's your guy, man. Good for him. He's
I
showing
mean, you
up.
gotta win. If you gotta win ugly. If you can win ugly in the NFL, you know what? That's fine. A win is a win. At the end of the day, they don't ask how you got them. They just
Sure.
look at how many you have, and that's a big one going into a very tough. What you would have thought was a tough Jets defense, and again, it was tough. They only gave up 1 touchdown.
Yeah.
It was an ugly day, sloppy, rain on and off, bad weather conditions. It was just an ugly game from start to finish, and the defense, kudos to the Denver Broncos. They brought a lot of pressure. They made Aaron Rodgers' life very, very difficult. and he looked like he got beat up pretty bad, man.
I
Like
know.
the last couple of drives, watching him walk off the field was tough. As good as he looked the couple weeks
Yeah.
prior, like in New against New England, he looked really tough this week. So I don't know if that's just a one-off. I don't know if he's going to have lingering pain going into this week, but boy, he really really struggled this week.
He's at that age now, man, where you got to believe that he will have some lingering pain. I mean, what is he? He's 41, 40?
41, 42.
Yeah, I mean, you got to imagine he was waking up on Monday feeling it. But I mean, look at the Broncos. Like you said, you win ugly games. That usually works in your favor in the NFL. And Bo Nix, still young, wasn't a crazy performance. He just did what he needed to do, and he
He
got
didn't make big
enough to win.
mistakes.
No, he didn't. And that's, if you're not the Tom Brady's or the Aaron Rodgers of the league, then that's mainly what you got to do is go out there and not make mistakes and, let everything else fall into place because the defense did just enough. They held them to 9 points, 3 field goals, and Bo Nix did just enough, getting one more point, one touchdown, and winning 10-9. I'm very nervous about Aaron Rodgers, both as a fantasy owner, but both as a guy who it's so fun to watch him play football at
Yeah.
a high level. And to see that last week was, like you said, it was really tough. It was really,
It was
really
so
tough.
fun to watch him before and see him,
I know.
especially in that Patriots game, man, he was slinging the rock. It was fun to watch. But, again, they could have won ugly too. They had a last second field goal with Zerline. He missed, was a 52-yard field goal. Now,
Mhm.
tough conditions, but they come out of that game with the win. They make that kick, it's a little bit of a different story. All of a sudden they're 3-1. And you know what? Like, Bills lost this week. So, right, they're right back in that mix. And so it's a long season though, Pop. It's still very early to come to a conclusion on whether a team is good or not. I think you said this early. There's a lot of growing pains with these new teams, new quarterbacks, new systems.
Yeah.
It's going to take some teams 5-6 weeks to really kind of figure it out. And I think that's what we're seeing in the NFL. We're a little less than a quarter in, and underdogs are winning. And, you got teams that no one figured would be good, like the Commanders, who look great. And you got teams that you think would be good, who look terrible, i.e. the Miami Dolphins with injuries. And there's a lot going on. So I think, it's really hard to assess where a team like the Jets are in terms of their talent level until you get closer to like midway through the season. You have like a bigger sample set. And then you could be like, okay, Aaron is in trouble, or Aaron looks like he's going to be just fine. But yeah, this was definitely not a good one by any means for him. If you're just watching with your eyes, it looked very tough to watch.
Yeah, and beyond all that, just worried if his body's going to be able to hold up for an entire season and potentially playoffs, and then hopefully, for them, a Super Bowl. Like, can his body be
Uh,
sustained for that long? So that's going to be tough to watch too, or interesting. And I'm going to
you
be
almost
watching.
think, you almost kind of think that if he did do it, if he did make it and win the Super Bowl, it would be like a one and done. That would be it. That would be his ride off into the sunset. Because I don't know if he's got more than maybe one more year. If he keeps taking beatings like he did last game, man.
I don't see a world where, I mean, I don't know how hard it is to leave the game, but if he won the Super Bowl this year, how do you not retire? I don't see
You
a world
have
where
you
you
have
have to.
you have to retire
I
unless, I mean,
agree.
some guys it's hard for them to walk away. Look
That's
at
what I mean.
Brady.
Yeah.
He won a Super Bowl and he wanted to come. It's like you got seven, dog. You just went to another team. You proved all the naysayers wrong. You just shoved it in Belichick's face. Retire. Go
Yeah.
spend time with your
I
family. And then he
agree.
got divorced. He lost his kids. Some guys just they can't walk away. So maybe
I
Aaron,
don't know if
I
those
mean,
two things are related. Are they?
oh, I think you don't think that Giselle said like it's time to retire. Like the fact that he went back, and by the way, they were terrible that last year. He didn't even come. I mean, he made the playoffs, but like it's just like some guys. I think it's hard when you're in the limelight like that. Like you're at the
Oh,
pinnacle.
for sure.
It's got to be tough. But I think a guy like Aaron definitely would walk away. I think he's got the wits about him that he realizes how hard it is to win. And when you have somebody like that, like unlike Brady, he was just winning all the time. When you have a guy who realizes, like, in Green Bay, he made how many NFC championships and he couldn't do it? I think a
Yeah.
guy like that, once he won, if he were to win it this year, he'd be like, okay, this is
Time to hang
probably
it
it.
up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and also it's like, and this goes for all sports. I think these guys, they've played these games since they were a kid. It's all they really know. So for them to walk away at a old age for sports, but still young, is like it's like, what do I do with the rest of my life? And I guess that's why a lot of them get into commentating, or coaching, so they can still stay
Yeah.
near it. But it's tough. I can definitely understand that, but there's sometimes like Tom should have retired after that Super Bowl. But
Well, Payne did the right thing.
oh yeah.
Payne, when he was with Denver, I mean, it was clear as day, same with
Yeah,
him. The writing was on the wall. It was time for him to hang him up, and he did. And you know what? You
he did.
ride off in the sunset. That's a good feeling.
Sure is. All right, let's move on over to the Bengals getting their first win of the season, playing in Carolina against the Panthers. They ended up taking that victory 34-24. Burrow looked good. Another good week for Andy Dalton, too, just wasn't good enough. Joe, what'd you see there?
I think all of us were on the Panthers this week,
I think
this
we
last
were.
week. I think we
We
had an
were.
abysmal record, by the way. I'm
Probably.
scared to go back and look. So one of the 400 faithful messaged me and was like, "Yo, I hope you actually didn't wager on your games because you were horrible." Now, that was before the Sunday night where I had the Ravens as my lock of the week.
It's true.
And
You're the one
boy,
that
oh
hit
boy, it
that.
wasn't that great. But yeah, this was a game where you thought like the Bengals just looked like in disarray. The Panthers were trending upwards. Not much to say about this game. I mean, Burrow did enough. I mean, a highlight reel touchdown by Jamar Chase, one of the better touchdowns I mean,
Yeah.
Burrow's going to get credit for that with the statistics, but like this guy was like dodging tackles and weaving. He started on one end of the field and ended up on the other. I think it was like a 65-yard touchdown. Did you see that? It was
Yeah. Oh yeah.
unbelievable. So, yeah, I mean, the Bengals, this was a game they had to win. I mean, if they lost this, the season's over. But you had to win. They did it. They covered the spread. So, they keep it moving and hopefully they rewrite the ship. And, the Panthers, I mean, this is a franchise that's just it's in disarray, man. It's tough. But I
Well,
do love me some Andy Dalton. I really do.
yeah, I mean, and that being said, he still looked good enough to be the starter over the other guy for now. I mean, he still played a pretty decent game, just wasn't as good as now. The biggest issue with that is the Bengals defense isn't that good. So you do want to
No,
score
they're
more than
bad.
you want to score
They
more
are
than
bad.
24 points against them. So, but one highlight for them, I think, would have been this Chuba Hubbard, man. He runs hard.
Yeah.
He's a hard runner. That's they got a future there with that guy. But they had a future with the last guy too, and they traded him for
Deontay
fucking
Foreman.
pennies. Well, no, I'm talking about Christian McCaffrey. Just trading him away.
Oh, yeah, I mean, that's even worse.
Yeah. Yeah.
They also
So
got rid of DJ Moore for peanuts.
yeah, they were just throwing
I
guys
mean,
away. I don't.
there was a time when I remembered the Panthers were a great team to watch. They had Steve Smith. Who was their quarterback? The
Talk about
white
Cam
guy.
Newton. Oh,
No, this was then they had Cam Newton that went to the Super Bowl. Yeah, they were a fun team, man. And then when they had Cam Newton, then they had the two-pronged running backs with D'Angelo Williams and Jonathan Stewart. And yeah,
yeah.
they were a fun team. And man, oh man, how they have just washed away into like nothingness. It's tough.
I mean, and if you're
Yes.
if you're a fan of that franchise and you're seeing the owner kind of doing what he's been doing and just letting the GM just trade great talent away for fucking
Oh,
pennies, I mean, I, I don't know. I mean, you got to start hoping that this guy sells, but he's probably not going to. But anyway, on the other side of the ball there, the Bengals, yeah, they needed it. And as we were just talking earlier about how a lot of teams are still trying to figure out their identity and who they are and how to play together. You know, I think Cincinnati found out right at the perfect time, and hopefully they can build on this and continue to try, win football games and return to that team they were that went to a Super Bowl a couple of years ago. And it was a must win because Joe, I agree. If they lost this game, I mean, maybe mathematically the season isn't over, but it would have been just a steep hill to climb, man.
demoralizing loss.
Yeah, it really would have been. All right, let's move on to we were talking about them earlier, the Commanders. They went to Arizona and played the Cardinals, who are the king of starting games with the first drive and looking amazing and then
Yeah.
just disappearing the rest of the game. So the
This was the
Commanders,
Yaman.
Yeah, Commanders won that game 42-14. Joe, what'd you see
This
there?
was the Yaman money line comeback play that never stood a fucking chance.
It never
I gotta
came
tell you,
back.
man, I think Jaden Daniels looks like the most NFL ready quarterback from what we've seen
Yeah.
after 4 weeks. He looks tremendous, man. And by the way, he's probably working with less than most of these other guys. I mean, aside from Drake May and New England. I mean, he has Cortland Sutton, who's a good receiver, but like they're not exactly like they're
No,
not
no, no.
exactly. Oh,
Cortland
sorry, I'm
Sutton,
sorry. I'm talking about. I'm talking
Bo
about. I meant
Nix. Yeah.
Terry
Yeah,
McLaurin
Scary
is who I meant.
Terry. Yeah.
I don't know why I said Cortland. McLaurin, Cortland. I don't know.
Sure.
Yeah, he has Terry McLaurin, who's great. He's unbelievable. Every week we talked about him last week. This guy makes great
Great.
plays, but after that, he doesn't exactly have like a ton of top tier guys. Now, Eckler's great, but he's hurt. This Brian Robinson had a big week, but he just looks like he can run or pass and do whatever he wants. And the Cardinals defense couldn't stop a nosebleed. They were just getting absolutely dominated by him early and often. On the other side of the ball, Kyler Murray, I just don't know, man. This guy, there's drives he looks great, and then there's times where he just looks lost, like he's ready to go play another fucking round of World of Warcraft or Call of Duty on his stream. I just don't know
Yeah.
how dialed in he is. I don't know. I don't think the Cardinals to me are not a team that is going to go far, but the Commanders, man, wow,
Yeah.
they look like the real deal.
When it comes to the Cardinals, man, every single week they come out firing and they look so exciting. And you're like, you're getting the Kyler Murray from like 3 or 4 years ago, where they look fucking unstoppable. But I think what's going on, or at least what needs to start being questioned, is I don't think this OC knows how to make any kinds of adjustments because the
No.
defenses figure out what Kyler and them are doing and they just keep trying to do the same shit and it stops working after that first drive or at least after the first quarter. So, I mean, he needs to start figuring it out. And yeah, this team, they've got a lot of talent on offense, man, but they got to figure out how to stay in some of these ball games because the defense certainly isn't going to help them stay in any ball games. They're just giving up shit willy-nilly.
Yes.
Um, and when it comes to Jaden Daniels, I agree with everything you said. This guy just looks unbelievable. And I think you said it, and I agreed with you that he looked like the best. I thought he was going to be the best guy coming out of the draft too. I mean, and you called it. So far so good for the Commanders, man. I think they are in first in the
Crazy how you
East.
could be a shitty team and then all of a sudden get just the one quarterback and it just all turns around for you.
Yeah, especially since their defense played so well. That was sort of more of their Achilles heel as well. Like they weren't good on either side of the ball, and for them to stop the Cardinals, who, like I said, at times looked fantastic, they held them to 14 points. So, got
Mhm.
to give credit there as well. All right, let's move on to the Chiefs, who played the Chargers in LA. The Chiefs, as they usually do, come out with a win, 17-10. It wasn't an overly exciting game, but they got that touchdown in the fourth quarter that put them ahead and let them win the game. Joe, what'd you see there?
Another sloppy Chiefs win, but again, a win is a win is a win, and Mahomes finds a way every week. It seems they started out getting pummeled 10-0 early on, and it could have been more. Some really, really questionable play calls from from LA. And I understand he's a national champion winner and Harbaugh is a great, but when you're 4th and 1, you're in field goal range and you're trying to throw a pass and you don't even run the ball. It just, to me, it's like you're overthinking it, man. If like, I think nobody will complain if you go for a 4th and 1, you hand the ball off, you get stuffed. Okay, fair enough. You try to like get cute and throw passes on a rollout. Like I don't know, man. It's just tough. The other side of the ball, Chiefs, Xavier Worthy, huge touchdown, looked great. There were some signs of life finally with Travis Kelce. He kind of looked like he played a little bit of a role, but to lose Rashee Rice, man, that's a big,
Big one.
big loss. And I
Yep.
don't know how long he's going to be out. As of today, I had still not heard, what the final, assessment is and how long he's going to be gone. But there are some rumblings that Devontae Adams is looking to get traded. And I swear to God, Tick, if this guy goes to the Kansas City Chiefs, it is going to be over. It's going to be good night, Irene, for everyone. I am praying that anybody but the Kansas City Chiefs get just handed on a silver platter this unbelievable receiver who would just transform that offense
You
and
think
make
Adams
them.
still has the sauce, man? You think he
Yeah,
still
he
got it?
does, dude. He
Okay.
does. I
I mean,
mean, he's had just junk throwing him the ball the last 2
it's
years.
true.
I mean, Aiden O'Connell, he had Derek Carr before, he had Garoppolo. I mean, come on, man. It's tough. Minshew is a good backup quarterback to fill in. He's not a starting quarterback by any means.
Yeah.
Devontae's still got the sauce, dog. He really does.
But he painted himself into that fucking corner when he left the Packers anyway. I mean, I
He
think a lot
did.
of people were questioning his decision to go to Oakland in the or Las Vegas in the first place. And it's just been, yeah, a carousel of mediocre to terrible quarterbacks for him. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know if we're going to get vintage Devontae Adams if he goes and plays with Patrick Mahomes, but he's still definitely a special player. Or I could be
Oh,
wrong. He could return to form. He's quite a talent. But going to this game, the Chiefs, man, they're the kings of playing up or down to their opponent, man. If the Chargers had scored 40 points, the Chiefs would have won by 40 with 47 points. If the Chargers scored 28 points, they would have scored 35 points. They play up or down. So when one team plays sloppy, it's like they just follow suit and will play sloppy until the last drive of the game. It's unbelievable, but they've been doing it for years now. I don't know how, and they keep winning ball games. I mean, granted, they get a lot of calls their way. They get a lot of
oh,
calls their way
a ton,
that help
Pop.
that out, but they still do it. They still find a way to do it. They brought Kareem Hunt in. I thought he looked,
Okay.
serviceable, but it was his first game. I think they can continue to build on that. I think he's definitely going to be better than what's that guy's name? Clyde
Carson
Edwards-Helaire
or Carson Steele, this
or
young
Carson
guy.
Steele. Yeah. So and the
You
Chargers just
know, I think if you see the Chiefs favored by a touchdown or more in a week, go ahead and take the other team first half because it seems like they're
yeah.
always they're always battling. Like they did it against the Ravens, they were favored. They did it against who was it? The Bengals. They should have lost outright. They did it this week against the Chargers. Atlanta came out first week. Like they always seem to start slow. And then
Yeah.
you know what? I got to
I know.
give some credit to Andy Reid. He makes adjustments. And Steve Spagnuolo, we talked about him last week. His defense, they come and they make big plays when they have to. So you know what? They give up 10 points early on the game. They shut down the team and they make the adjustments and they make the plays that gives their offense a chance to go out there and get back into the game. So that's a sign of a winner, whether it's
Sure.
pretty or not.
And he's been a winner for quite some time now. And then when it comes to Justin Herbert, man, I'm getting sick of thinking of this guy as like an elite quarterback or elite quarterback in the making. He has been so mediocre for years now outside of that rookie season. And I get it. I don't think he was 100% this week. I think he was definitely still a little banged up. I get it. But I mean, at what point are the Chargers going to be like, I don't know, maybe this isn't the guy? I mean, probably a few more years, knowing how long the Giants have given Daniel Jones a shot. So he'll probably be there for another 5 years, regardless of whether he keeps playing like this or even worse moving
Yeah.
forward. So, but it is tough to like continue considering this guy as one of the better quarterbacks in the league, and he just keeps disappointing over
Yeah.
and over again. The offense has been really they've been leaving a lot, more to be desired. So another good win for the Chiefs, man. I mean, they just keep finding ways. Let's move on here to what everyone thought was probably going to be the best game of the week, the Bills and the Ravens. Buffalo went into Baltimore, and this was Joe's game of the week. And as he kind of predicted there, the Ravens rolled 34 or 35-10. What do you see there, Joe?
There's not often times that I'm right when I call what I think is going to happen in the game, but I just saw this setting up miles away. Derrick Henry is reborn. We talked about it amongst ourselves. This guy is he is like a fucking, like a Mustang running down the field. Like, good luck tackling the guy. He's running at 21, 22 miles an hour, and he's built like a tank. It's unbelievable. So they relied on him early. Lamar Jackson did what he needed. The Bills made a little bit of a comeback in the second half. Looked like they were going to mount, a comeback and really change the course of the game. And then again, similar to like the Eagles game, big turnover. Ravens get the ball back. They drive down the field. Justice Hill, I think, scores a touchdown. The game was over. So I think the Bills are still a good team. I just think this is by far the best team that they had faced. And I don't think it's particularly close. Look at the Bills, they played the Cardinals, they played the Dolphins, and they
Yeah.
played, I mean, they just played a lot of teams who I just don't think they played. Was it the Patriots? That was
Yep.
just a fucking blowout. So I think this was one of the first games where they played a team who's actually, a playoff contending, Super Bowl potential contending team. And they just kind of got hit in the mouth. And, Josh Allen made some good plays, but again, the game script, it kind of got down early and often, and then they had to get away from their bread and butter, which has been running James Cook and getting him the ball, and it caught up to them. And Ravens roll, man. Ravens roll.
I think I had agreed with you last week that when you made this call that I did think this was set up for the Bills to fail in this game. I didn't think it would be to this degree. But what is mainly concerning for me with the Bills is this is a Ravens defense who's given up at least 25 every week. And for a Josh Allen led team to score 10 is extremely, extremely worrisome if you're Buffalo, and especially when, as you said, every other win that they've had was built on mediocre to crap teams. So that's very concerning if you're a Bills fan. But good win for the Ravens. They keep rolling. I think after starting 0-2, they're about to be running downhill for quite some time. All right, and moving on to Monday night. We had a doubleheader, but we're just going to focus on one game. The Seahawks and the Lions, those pesky Lions in Detroit, are having some fun playing football right now, man. They take the win in Detroit, 42-29. Joe, what'd you see there?
Just a Lions team, like you said, having fun. I think Seattle's a similar team to like when I looked at the Bills, and I think the Bills are obviously a much better team than Seattle, but I think Seattle is kind of one of those teams that's a little bit overrated. They really haven't played a team that has potential to like make you pay. And they walked into a Lions stadium that was just, those Lions fans are having themselves a fun time. And, it really goes down to this running game. We talked about it last week. Man, Montgomery, this guy he runs with a purpose. He runs hard. And then you get Jahmyr Gibbs, who just shoots out of a cannon. That running game is so difficult to stop that it just opens shit up. And once you get Jared Goff catching in and around touchdown passes, that's when you're in a bad spot. When that happens, just roll, just wave the white flag and roll out. But they played great. They played early. They dominated. The Lions are a good team. I think they're a team that could go deep in the playoffs. On the other side, the Seahawks, DK Metcalf looks like their whole offense. And I think they've got to keep getting this Jackson Smith and Jigba, more involved. It looked like he did towards the second half. But I think the Seahawks, Geno Smith is another one of those guys that you talk about. Like 1 week, he looks like he's poised to have a breakout season, and then the next week he's just really struggling. So I don't know what to make of the Seahawks just yet, but I do think that the Lions are a very good team.
The Lions they look incredible. If they get this Jared Goff for the rest of the season, a guy who was perfect, he only threw 16 times, but he completed all 16 of them. I mean, if they get this guy and he doesn't turn into what we all know he sometimes can, especially around playoff time, then they've got something really special on their hands because, like you said, that rushing attack is unbelievable. They've got some great receivers. Laporte is an awesome tight end. Jameson Williams coming into his own. St. Brown, we all know how great he is. Man, they can be
Got some
real.
pieces.
Yeah, they sure do. And going to the other side of the ball, I don't know what to make of Seattle yet, but what I do know is unless you're Tom Brady or Peyton Manning or, Patrick Mahomes, and not even him, I don't think, if you send your quarterback out there to throw 56 times,
oh my God,
you're rarely going to find success. And you're definitely not going to find success with a guy like Geno Smith. No offense to him, but he's just not a drop back 56 kind of guy.
No.
He's just not. And on this other, they got to trust this Kenneth Walker more because I still like him a lot, and I think if you trust that ground game a little bit more and let Geno throw no more than 35 times, and that still might even be too much, I think they're going to find more consistent success. But
Even that
jury's
Charbonnet kid out of
yeah,
UCLA, he's pretty solid too.
he is. He absolutely is. So I think the jury's still out on these guys. I do agree greatly with you. This Jackson Smith and Jigba guy was supposed to be like a game changer coming out of what was it? Was it
Ohio
Ohio
State.
State?
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
Ohio State.
And they just don't seem to get him involved. Now I know DK's always going to be the number one guy as long as he's there because he's just a specimen. He's unbelievable. But you got to work Jackson Smith in more, especially if you're going to throw 56 times. Um, all right, let's move on to week 5 coming up. Let's get into some previews here. And we were abysmal last week. And Mikey and I did not hit our game of the
Oh,
week. So, and
we got some making up to do.
yeah, not to make excuses. We're not excuse guys here, but it is tough making picks on Tuesdays and Wednesdays. Just gonna say that. But let's get into it. Thursday night, we've got the Bucs heading to Atlanta. Another couple of just teams that you never know what they're going to do, but the spread is Atlanta favored by 1.5, over under 43.5. Joey D, what do you like?
I mean, if we see the Baker Mayfield that we saw this last week, you'd think that they should handle business easily. But again, you just don't know what team are you going to get. I think the money is going to be on Tampa because of what we saw them taking down the Eagles. Baker Mayfield having a huge day. Give me Atlanta. I don't like it, but I think most people are going to think like the narrative that I just painted, and I think a lot of the public money will be on Tampa Bay. So give me Atlanta. Give me Atlanta to cover at home -1.5. Might as well just be a money line bet. I mean, it's not like they have to cover a lot. They just basically have to win the game. Well, they have to win by 2, but I think they can do that at home. I think that they can, they can build off of a big finishing win last week against the Saints, who were the talk of the town for a while. Now have lost 2 straight and look to be more the team of what we expected them to be. Give me Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a team in this league since I've been betting who has fucked me more than Atlanta through the years. They
Yeah.
consistently fuck me. That franchise fucks me over every single time. And anytime I get comfortable with them, I mean, you walked into this year thinking they were going to be one of the better teams in the league.
Yeah, I
And
did.
what do they do? They just look like a fucking mess. So for those reasons and those reasons only, I'm gonna go with the Bucs on this one. I'm gonna go with I'm gonna take the money line too. I don't need the point
Well,
and
you
a
could take
half
the
there.
Bucks +1.5.
I can, but I mean I think I'm gonna get better value
Yeah.
with the money
You're gonna
line.
take them to win outright. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they will. But every once in a while, Kirk Cousins finds a nut, man. So who knows? All right, let's move on to Sunday here. We got the Packers at the 4:30 slot taking on the LA Rams. Packers are favored by 3, over under 48.5. We're in Los Angeles.
I think the Packers take care of business here this week. The Rams have not really shown me much. Now, they did beat San Francisco at home, but again, like we mentioned earlier, San Francisco was really beaten up when they did, missing a lot of their major pieces. I think the Packers can roll here. I really do. I think, tough loss last week, but they really showed a lot of heart, a lot of bounce back in the second half. The offense really found some life. I think they'll do enough to cover the field goal here. Give me the Packers to win and cover the 3.
Yeah, I'm going to take the Packers -3 as well. I think that Jordan Love that we're going to see is going to be a lot closer to the guy we saw in the fourth quarter last week than the guy we saw in the first 3.
I agree.
So I think they're going to win, and I think they're going to win somewhat handily. I think they might even win by 10. So yeah, give me the Packers -3 there. Moving on, we got the Jets taking on the Vikings in Minnesota. Minnesota's favored by 2.5 points, over under 40.5. This game's in London, by the way.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it's a
Not good
9:30
for
a.m. game.
Aaron Rodgers coming out.
Yeah, coming after. Yeah, he's probably already there.
um, Give me the Vikings. I know it's chalky, but I don't know what we're getting if Aaron's going to be playing or if he is playing. How healthy is he going to be? Minnesota looks like they're probably a top 5 team in the league right now. They're firing on all cylinders. They're probably going to bring pressure to get to Aaron early, and I think Darnold can do enough with that offense to score some points, put them on the board, and I think Minnesota could cover. What was the line again?
2.5.
2.5. Yeah, I'll take the Vikings.
I like the Vikings and I like Sam Darnold a lot to continue to have a great season, but I don't like him in this spot traveling to London. I think it's first of all a much longer flight from Minnesota than it is from New York, so I think there's already that benefit. But they just came off a game in Green Bay, and I think then they got to go home for a few days, and then they fly to London. Sam Darnold's still in the infancy of this, comeback season. I just think that's going to be a tall order, and I like the Jets to fire back this week after a pretty miserable effort last week.
I hope you're right as a Packers fan.
Yeah, so give me the Jets plus the 2.5. All right, moving on. We got the Panthers taking on the Bears. Bears are favored by 4. We're in Chicago here. Over under 42.5.
Panthers
Chicago's favored by 4.
over the
Yeah,
Panthers at
correct.
home. Yeah.
Yes, correct. Yes.
Oh man, this is a tough spot. I want to say the Bears easily, but nothing has been easy for the Bears. That being said, they showed me something. Give me the Bears -4 at home. This Panthers team doesn't have much to play for right now. I don't really see them, lighting it up. The Bears defense has been the one bright spot on this team, I think, through and through. I think the defense has been, pretty solid most games. Yeah. Yeah, maybe they build off of this, this rushing attack that they had last week, and they keep building. And it looks like they asked Caleb Williams to do a lot less this week than in prior weeks. So I think that's what we talked about, the recipe for success. So they can keep building off that. I think they can cover. Carolina is not a great team. Give me the Bears -4.
It's a big game for the Bears to see if they're truly headed in the right direction or if they're just going to revert back into what we saw the first few games of the season. I'm going to bet that they revert back because that's what this Bears team does a
Oh,
lot,
yeah.
especially with this
It's a
coaching
good
staff.
bet.
I'm going to bet they do that. I'm going to take the Panthers to cover on the road with the 4 points there. Moving on, that was close to my game of the week, but I'm going to stay away.
Really?
It's just there's better stuff on the board, I think, than gambling with those two kinds of teams. Let's move on to the Ravens heading to Cincinnati. Baltimore's favored there by 2.5 points, over under 49.5.
This is a big game for Cincinnati more than anyone else. Because if Cincinnati can win this game, they are all the way back in terms of they were resurrecting their season from what looked like devastation. This is a game they have to win. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. I hate that I'm doing this. I'm going to go with Cincinnati as an underdog, and I'm actually going to take them to win. I would take them money line to win this game.
I love it. I love that pick. I love it.
You know what?
Oh, here we go. Oh,
I am so close to making this my game of the week, man.
boy.
I'm so close to making this my game of the week, but I'm not going to because I have another game of the week that I'm going to. But I think if you're willing to take the Bengals to cover the spread, I would take them to win this game outright. The Ravens are coming off a triumphant, massive win. They're feeling themselves. They travel to a division rival. Cincinnati's got everything on the line. This is their season. They're playing for everything. Give me Cincinnati with the points. I would take the money line as far. I would go as far to do that.
I love that pick. I'm gonna follow right with you. I would take the money line. Might even when it comes around to Sunday here, but for now, just give me the Bengals with the 2.5 points. Let's move on here. Let's skip through some of the games that I find a little less interesting. Unless you tell me by the end that I skipped your game of the week here. But let's move on to the Browns heading to Washington to play the Commanders. Washington is favored by 3 points, over under 43.5.
I can't for the life of me take the Browns over Washington here. The Browns just lost to the Raiders, who looked anemic the week before, and losing to the Panthers. I am taking the Commanders here. I'm not going to overthink it at all. The Commanders are a better team. Deshaun Watson has got to figure what the hell he's doing out there, because he looks
Yeah.
like a shell of himself. I look back at highlights from Deshaun Watson when he was with the Texans, and I'm like, yo, what happened? Because he is not the same guy.
Well, I think
Um,
we all know what happened.
well, we do to an extent. To an extent. Give me the Commanders here, Pop. I'm not overthinking it. I think they're the better team. I think 3 points is a favorable spot here. You maybe push, maybe buy the hook down at 2.5, try to win. They're playing at home. They're on a winning streak. They're first in the NFC East, and Jane Daniels does not look like he's slowing down anytime soon. Give me the Washington Commanders.
Yeah, I think you could easily try to overthink this and talk yourself into the Browns, but I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm going to roll. I'm going to roll with Washington minus the 3 as well. Let's move
You
on
know what
here.
it is, Tick? Sorry, just but one.
Sure.
There's times where I could handle losing a game,
Hmm.
and then there's
Yeah, I
times where
know.
I can't. And I don't think I would be willing to lose money knowing that I put it on the Browns to beat Jaden Daniels at home. Whereas if I put money on Jaden Daniels and he comes up short, the team just has a stinker, I'd be like, everything would lead me to believe that this is the right pick, and I could live with that. So for that reason alone, I think sometimes in these spots you just have to go with what seems like the right play.
Yeah, I agree. Can't lose with Watson. I can't lose having bet on Deshaun Watson. It would just kill me, especially with the just the state of that team as a whole, man. Everyone's coming up short. Not just him. But let's move on here to the Bills heading to Houston. Bills are favored by 1, basically a pick 'em there. Over under 47.5.
This is my game of the week. And
Whoa.
this is why I
Okay.
didn't take the Bengals, even though I really, really wanted to. Buffalo is a very, very good team, and they just ran into a tough team in the Ravens. I am not sold yet on the Houston Texans. The
Okay.
Houston Texans just barely got by the Jacksonville Jaguars at home, and I think Jacksonville is trash. And I say that with all due respect. I'm wearing actually Jacksonville colors right now. And to our good friend of the pod, Christian Kirk, I think they're trash. I think Doug Peterson is on his way out. I think that team is checked out. The Texans almost lost to them this week. And now they got a Bills team that just got embarrassed on national TV in the primetime game slot on Sunday night. The Buffalo Bills at -1 are going to steamroll the Texans, I believe. I believe they're going to win this game by probably close to a touchdown. And I would even alternate spread this and buy it up to like Buffalo -3.5. I would even go up to. I think they're going to win by 4 to 7 points. I think it's not going to be particularly close. I think Josh Allen's going to have a big game. I think they bounce back. This is a very good Bills team, and I don't think the Texans are nearly as good as their record shows. CJ Stroud is great, don't get me wrong, but they got absolutely shit pumped by the Minnesota Vikings 2 weeks ago. Don't
Yeah.
forget that. They got absolutely steamrolled. They barely beat the Chicago Bears. Barely. And that was with Caleb Williams couldn't score a touchdown that game. And against the Colts, who with Richardson and all of those issues they've had, they barely won that game. So I've not seen enough from this Houston Texans team to think that they're a team that's going to contend with what I think is potentially one of the best teams in the AFC and the Bills. Give me the Bills here. I think it's a great spot at -1. I would alternate spread it. That is my game of the week, Bills money line.
Wow. I'm shocked that that's your game of the week, man. That's a game that I'm considering staying far away from, only because a lot of the points you made for Houston is like the Bills haven't beaten anyone either. I think it's a couple of teams who are both 3-1, and those 3 wins are all against just crappy to
But
middle
I
of the
love me
road
some
teams.
Josh
That he
Allen.
is the difference maker, but you never, I don't know. I just, especially with the spread only being 1, I mean,
They got to
that's,
win by 1 point.
I know, but I could see this going either way. I could see the Bills
Listen,
continuing to slide, or
I might get blown out. I might be so wrong, but I feel very similar to how I felt last week with the Ravens. I thought the Ravens were by far the play of the week. And I think the Bills are better than they let off. They had a bad game. I think they're going to come back. And by the way, I don't think the Texans are that good of a team. I
Whoa.
think they're good. They're 3-1. I think CJ Stroud's a tremendous talent. They got great receivers.
They're
Nico
good, but they're
Collins.
not that good.
I don't think they're that good.
All
And I could be
right.
totally wrong. And we'll see next week.
We will see next week. I guess I would rather just roll with Josh Allen. So I'm going to take the Bills as well, given the point there. But I don't think I'll be anywhere near this game. I don't. I really don't.
You could just watch from afar and see me just pulling my hair out. Probably be a way closer game than I think.
Or I mean, I can see your point. I could see the Bills absolutely fucking rolling. So I don't know. I hope they do steamroll. For your game of the week there. All right, let's move on to the Cardinals heading to San Francisco. San Francisco is favored by 7 points, over under 49.5.
Are they? I'm interested to know if they're getting back. Let's see here. Kittle's questionable. Fred Warner's questionable. Debo's going to be playing. McCaffrey might be out the whole season now. Who knows what the hell's happening with him? I'm gonna take the Niners. I'm gonna take the nine. The Cardinals again last week looked just putrid, dude.
Sure
They
did.
looked really bad. And I think the Niners just covered against last week against the Patriots with a big spread. They did plenty enough. I think this team is starting to find their legs and find their way and starting to move in the right direction after a tough loss against the Rams, which they should have won. Give me the Niners -7.
I'm gonna take the Cardinals here. I'm
Okay.
gonna make it my game of the week.
Are you really, Pop?
Listen, man,
I gotta hear this.
outside of last week, they haven't lost by more than 7, and the line's right at 7. And I know last week was really devastating. I just think that they're a middle of the road team that's playing a 49ers team that just I don't believe in Brock Purdy at all. I don't like this kid. I mean, I like him. He seems like a fine guy. He seems a
He's like
little
a nice
boring if you
kid.
ask me. Yeah, nice enough. But I just don't. He hasn't shown. I guess I should say this. He hasn't shown me anything special yet. And I think with McCaffrey being out and is Debo playing? Is he going to end up
He
playing?
played last week. I think he's back.
Okay, so I mean, I know he played last week, but I thought I heard something else about him. But
I don't think
I, I think the Cardinals can cover the 7. I'm not saying they're going to win the game. I just really like them in this spot to come back and surprise some folks at the 4 o'clock slate and cover that 7. I like it. I think it's going to be a high scoring game, and I think they
Okay.
can keep it right in there. It's going to be my game of the week.
Wow.
I know it's a big swing, but I went from 2-0 to now 2-2, and I need a big
Yeah,
swing on the books,
you
man.
do.
I need to swing for the fences, and then that's what I'm doing with my man Kyler right now. All right, let's move on to the Giants playing Seattle in Seattle. Seattle's favored by 6.5 points, over under 43.5.
Giants going to Seattle. 6.5 favored for Seattle.
Mhm.
Oh my God. It's gonna be an ugly game. That's a tough cross country travel. The Giants, I mean, now the Giants, they did just play last Thursday, so they had some time off.
Yeah.
Give me the Giants. Give me the New York Giants, the
Hmm.
G-men. I just don't believe that Seattle is the real deal yet. I think they're a good team, but 6.5, they got to win by a touchdown. I could see the Giants being scrappy, playing tough, and listen, they just covered against the Cowboys. I know that was at home, and they're playing on the West Coast. They're playing in Seattle. That's a tough stadium to play in, but I think the Giants could cover 6.5. Give me the G-men.
I want to follow suit there. I really do. But I think the Seahawks can bounce back a little bit here. I really do think that they're going to look at the game tape and realize that he just threw for way too many. He dropped back and threw too many times. So I think they're going to rectify that. But because of that, I think they are going to fall back into the running game. I don't trust the Giants very much. So I'm going to stay away from the spread, or I'll pick the spread too. But I really like the under 43.5 here. I think it's going to
Yeah.
be a low scoring game, but I'll just for the sake of it, I'll take Seattle and giving the 6.5 points there. And I like the under in that game. I really do. Moving on to the Sunday night game, we've got the Cowboys taking on the Steelers in Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh is favored by 2.5 points.
Wow.
Over under 44.5.
I tell you what, man, this is a tough one because, the Steelers to me had looked like a very consistent team, and then they just really dropped a clunker of a game to, a team that had for majority of it playing 40-something-year-old Joe Flacco, and they couldn't make a stop. They could not stop this team. And then Taylor was banged up. So I was very let down by the defense. And then they had a chance to come back and tie the game late after being down a ton, and they just couldn't do it. I'm going to take the Cowboys here. I don't think the Steelers' offense is formidable by any means. I think George Pickens is an all-time talent, but Fields, to me, when he drops
You think
back,
he's an all-time talent?
I think he's going to be one of the better receivers for a while in the league.
Wow.
I think he's going to be something special. Maybe all-time talents. A little. Maybe that's a little, but I would put him in the top 15 receivers in the league.
Wow. Okay.
I think he's really, really good, dog. And I don't think he's had a really good quarterback throwing the ball to him for some time.
That's true.
If you had a Josh Allen throwing the ball to this guy, I think you'd be seeing some highlight reel plays week after week. But yeah, aside from that, Najee Harris is hit or miss. It's not crazy, but the Steelers offense doesn't strike fear in my heart. So I do think for that reason, I think the Cowboys defense stinks, but I do think that they're going to be able to hold in tight. I would see this game being very low scoring. If I were to take this game, I probably wouldn't take the spread. I would take the under. But for the sake of the show, I will take the Cowboys plus 2.5. I think they can put points on the board enough that they can hang. I think it'll be a scrappy back and forth game. Yeah, I'll take the Cowboys. Another just a tough game to pick a side. I'd probably pick the total if anything, but for the sake of the show, I'll go with the Cowboys.
I'm gonna take. I like Mike Tomlin in a primetime game spot like this. I think he's gonna show up and take advantage of a Cowboys defense that sucks.
Oh, it does.
I mean, I know they had a pretty good performance against the New York Giants, but I'm not going to put a whole lot of stock into that. I think their defense is ass, and I'm gonna bet on Justin Fields and the all-time talent that is George Pickens to continue to roll. The only thing that sucks about the Steelers is, man, Najee Harris is like one of the least explosive running backs in the league, man. He just like his acceleration is so tough. Sometimes when he can get going and he gets a few yards under his belt, he's a strong runner, but he's like
a train. He's got to get the
yeah, he does. And really hurts him a lot of the times. And that's how you see him like run for 2 to 3 yards at a time. And I can imagine it's very frustrating for Steelers fans, but I besides that, I like the Steelers and I like Mike Tomlin in this spot to take care of business here against Dallas. I'll take Pittsburgh given the 2.5 there. And moving on to our last game here, we have the Monday night game. New Orleans is rolling into Kansas City. Kansas City is favored by 5.5 points, over under 43.5.
Mikey V's game of the week. He's taken the under 43.5 in this game. And I don't mind it, to be honest. The Chiefs might be probably going to be without Rashee Rice. Don't have Pacheco. Kind of look out of sorts on offense. To the point now where teams can kind of zone in on Kelsey and Xavier Worthy. Who's gonna beat them? Juju Smith-Schuster? I just don't. I don't know. I don't see them being really formidable on offense right now. I kind of don't mind the pick from Mikey, to be honest.
I don't hate it either.
I think it's a good pick. I think Spagnuolo's got the Chiefs defense running all cylinders. I'm gonna do something really stupid, and I'm gonna take the Saints. They actually pushed on what was the spread on the Falcons? I got it at 2. No, I think it was 2.5. I think they didn't cover against the Falcons, but they were right there. I mean, aside from a 58-yard field goal from Younghoe Koo this week, they would have won the game and they would have covered. So yeah, I like the Saints. I don't mind the Saints. I think they can do enough to score a few points. I don't know. I don't like this game at all.
I don't like it either. I like the under a lot. I like what Mikey's
I,
picking.
I think the under is absolutely the one thing I would take. The thing is with the Chiefs, I know they covered this last week, but they just don't cover. Like, especially in primetime games, they barely win these games, and games that everybody and their mothers always betting on the Chiefs. Oh, they're gonna blow out the Saints. The Saints have lost two in a row. The Chiefs are undefeated. They're playing at home, no?
Chiefs are at home, yeah.
Oh, yeah, the whole world's gonna be on the Chiefs. Give me the Saints. I don't like it, and to be honest, I would not advise taking it with your own money, but for the sake of the show, I will do it. But I absolutely do agree with Mikey. I think the play here is take the under and don't think. I don't think you need to overthink it.
Yeah, for those exact reasons, I'm also going to roll with the Saints, but just don't do it unless you see that line for whatever reason like
Betting
change
against Mahomes
dramatically.
with Derek Carr is a tough place to be in.
And I refuse to lose with Derek Carr anymore. I'm
Oh,
not going to do it. I ain't going to do it. All right, that concludes that. We're going to rip a couple questions and then we're going to get out of here.
yeah.
Joe, first question comes from Connor Cameron. I'm curious actually if you even have an opinion on this. By what week does Sirianni get fired?
I don't think he's going to get fired. I think if he does get fired, it'll be after the season. But I do think they're going to be a playoff team. I do think they're going to make the playoffs. It's tough to tell, man. It's tough to tell, but he just looks like he has no control over that locker room right now, and he looks like he's just out of sorts. And like it's becoming very noticeable. Him on the sidelines, he just looks like he's in another planet.
I mean, no.
It's really tough to watch. But yeah, I think he makes it the season. I do think, and I hate to say this to Tick, I think the Eagles are going to make the playoffs, and like last year, they're going to sputter out like a fart, and they're going to lose either the first week or the second week of the playoffs. And expectations right now are high in Philadelphia for this Eagles team. And people want to win, and they want to win now. They just brought in the best running back potentially in the league. They got great playmakers. People expect this team to win. And if they don't win, and if they don't win a playoff game, I think he could be on the outs at the end of the season. But I don't think that they'll fire him in the middle of the season because they're too good of a team, and it's too difficult of a place to put a team when you change an entire coaching regime midway through the season. It's very tough to bounce back from that as a team, unless they're just losing like uncontrollably and they're out of the playoff picture. But I don't think that that's going to be the case, Pop.
Uh, if they so they're on a bye week this week. If they come out of a bye week and they play the Cleveland Browns at home in Philadelphia and they look as putrid and as lost as they have, I think you could see him get fired after that game. I think you could absolutely
Really?
see him and then they have the Giants after that. If they play a couple putrid games in a row, especially one of them being an in-division rival who's not very good, but if they come out looking bad against both those teams, I mean, I think it could be soon because people are fed up with this guy there. They're absolutely, and me being, one of the biggest, he's just a clown. As you said, when he's on the sideline, he doesn't know, he just looks lost. And it's an extremely infuriating, especially in a town like Philadelphia that doesn't have a whole lot of patience for that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So I could see Howie having a whole lot of pressure on his shoulders if he comes out of a bye week, if Sirianni comes out of a bye week and just looks bad against an already bad Deshaun Watson led team. I mean,
Do you think Jalen Hurts to me looks checked out a little bit too? Do you think that
oh
that
yeah.
has anything to do with Sirianni, that he's just like not feeling the system and not feeling what's going on, or do you think it's just it's more than that?
I think I think that is the biggest question mark that Philadelphia Eagles fans have, which makes it very infuriating. Is Jalen Hurts really a very capable quarterback like the guy we've seen 2 years ago, and for a better part of last year too, or is he not great and it's just or is he great and he's just not having success as a result of Sirianni? Or is he really just as bad as he looks with or without Sirianni? I think that's one of the bigger questions. So I think the first order of business is getting Sirianni out of there, getting someone else in, and seeing if what Jalen Hurts is like without him. And if he's just as bad, can him and find somebody else. Or if he can turn it around, then we all know that it
Yeah.
was strictly Sirianni. So Lord knows, I am of the opinion that Jalen Hurts is not as good as the guy that we saw take the Eagles to the Super Bowl. But I refuse to believe that with a better coach, he wouldn't. I think he'd look a lot better. I do. I don't think he'd look like an elite quarterback in the league, but I think he'd look better than he has this season and at the end of last season. I have to believe that. I just have to. Or he's one of these classic quarterbacks that, came into the league, was very exciting, was doing something a little bit different, and then the league found him out. And regardless of his coach, maybe he's just a predictable kind of player now. So I don't know. But what I do know is Sirianni is terrible and lost and just shouldn't be the coach of any football team. And he's got to go. And I think if we see him come out of a bye week and play terribly against Cleveland, I think it's very possible that he could. Um, all right, moving on here from next question comes from Nathan McClure. How many Joey cold cuts would it take to tackle Derrick Henry?
Oh my God. You got an entire defense? Because you might need it. I'm saying at least four.
Or I was going to say three.
This guy, dude, is built different, man.
But
I
so
could
are you.
I could see me like me just holding onto one of his legs as he runs like a Clydesdale and just get dragged through the field.
Yeah, I think if the four of you or if the three of you are aligned, one guy goes low, another guy goes high, and another guy goes right for the middle of the body there, I think you've got a chance because you're built different too. I mean, listen, it would take 12 of me, and I think it would take 12 of most people we know, but I think that you're a gamer, man. I think see, here's the thing too is I think you would hurt yourself trying to
Oh,
make that tackle.
there was a time people don't realize this back in the day where, you know, we are really close with Saquon's manager, Cuz, and they were trying to set up a suicide drill. Do you remember this with me
Oh
versus
yeah.
Saquon Barkley?
Hmm.
I was committed at that point in time to like hurt myself in the attempt of trying to tackle this guy. Like I would have thrown my body. He would have absolutely just thrown me off. But like to your point, I absolutely would. I would put my body on the line in a way that
I
I
know.
shouldn't in order to try to get this guy down.
And
And I
three,
sometimes I don't even just see reality and just realize this is not smart. This is
yeah.
a dumb thing to do until after the after effects.
Yeah, so I think three Joey D's throwing their life on the line, I think could get them down.
Okay,
Now the
maybe
problem is if
four for
there's three
sure.
of you, four for sure. I think if the problem you could have is are you getting juked? You know what I mean? Like, are we starting with you
Oh, one
tackling
of
them?
those guys is getting his ass juked for sure. And another guy's getting stiff armed to hell. So you might want to add two more on. So the correct answer is six. Six Joey D's.
Six Joey D's because the first two are missing tackles. All right, we'll do one more. This one comes from Sam Likes. Classic fuck Mary Kill here on the Sportsman. March Madness, NFL playoffs, MLB playoffs.
March Madness, MLB, and NFL.
Mm-hmm. Playoffs.
March Madness for the basketball. Yeah. Oh, I can't kill that. I'm killing Major League Baseball, dude. The playoffs.
Wow.
I like it, but I don't have a team. I don't really have an investment in baseball aside from if I'm throwing a wager on a team that I like. NFL, I'm marrying all day, every day. And yeah, I'm gonna always fuck with the March Madness. It's one of the
Sure.
funnest times in sports. So give me that one.
I love March Madness, but I think I'm going to kill it. I love it. It's going to kill me to kill it, but I just would feel
But
so
see, that's
like a
because you have the Phillies. That's why.
I guess I just think that baseball playoffs is what makes baseball so great. It's so fun. It's electric. It's when everything matters, and I love the sport of baseball. I don't love necessarily the league. I think they've done a terrible job with their product in the last
Yeah.
10 years. but I still think what remains is playoff baseball, and I just love it too much. That being said, I'm gonna fuck it. I'm gonna marry NFL playoffs, and yeah, I'm gonna have to kill March Madness.
Wow.
Um, yeah, which sucks because I love it so much. It's just tough. Um, you know what? Also, as a whole, I think if it's not just playoffs, if it's just college basketball or baseball as a whole, I'm going to kill baseball and then keep college basketball because I love college basketball. But if you're just talking the playoffs, that's what it's going to be. All right, Joey D, good episode there. No Mikey, we always miss him. It's always better when the three of us are
It
together.
sure
But
is.
a lot of fun today. We were on here for quite some time. We're putting together some
Couple
long ass
hours.
episodes, man.
Yeah.
I gotta
Yes.
fucking go do some work now. But all right, pal. Another episode of the Sportsman in the can. Good one. We will see you guys next week for more football talk.
We love you guys.
Bye.